Why isn't the Cody Rhodes and Randy Orton feud hitting like it should be? And that's what we're going to be talking about in today's video. We're going to talk about everything good and everything bad going on with this Cody Rhodes and Randy Orton feud, where it's something that it should be really easy to set up something like this. It's just not going so well for WWE in the build to this match. It should be an easy storyline between old friends who turn rivals, and it's just currently not hitting like it should be. They're making it way more complicated than it has to be.
See an introduction to celebrities that have no business being in this feud. This is a simple story between two guys, one as a mentor to the other guy who is now at the top of his game, whereas the other one is on the way out but is also looking to get a few more titles under his reign before he calls it quits himself. And yeah, it's a very simple storyline. However, they're, like I said, mentioning all these new people, and it's just not adding up at any means.
It should just be as easy as Randy Orton turns on Cody Rhodes, and every single week we see them fighting each other, trying to figure out why Randy Orton did what he did, and then eventually it gets revealed. Where in the case where we're at today, it seems like there's kind of delaying an actual reveal of his actual motive of why he did it, because he's telling people that he just wants the world title. He doesn't care about the fans anymore. He doesn't care about anything. He just wants his world championship. But he has someone in his ear kind of telling him what to do. So it kind of seems like he's not speaking for himself. He's speaking for someone else. And it's not really Randy Orton's motives that he's going after. It's someone else's motives that he's chasing after.
It's a bigger part of the story that we'll eventually get to in a few months down the line. But this isn't the typical Randy Orton we've seen. Usually Randy has kind of called his own shots. He's doing what he wants to do. That's what has done Randy Orton the best throughout his entire career, is listening to himself, getting the job done by himself. But now when you're taking advice from these people, it doesn't add up to where you are now as a wrestler. As a wrestler, you should be advancing, getting more wiser, and Randy Orton is seemingly doing the opposite. He's listening to the people who aren't even in the business really. So yeah, it's definitely a very interesting route for them to portray Randy Orton going down.
And then there's also the involvement of Jelly Roll, where there is some segments where I do really enjoy him. He does have a way of speaking sometimes where I can get behind it. He can cut some good promos here and there. We seen him getting Randy Orton's ear right before he did the kind of beat down to Matt Cardona to break his arm. And he cut a really good kind of positive promo telling him to not look that way, don't listen to the voices and all that sort of stuff. But whenever you involve him in 3, 4, 5 different segments in one SmackDown, then that SmackDown becomes one of the worst rated SmackDowns ever because of it. That should kind of tell you to leave it alone, calm down on the celebrities. But instead, we involve 2 or 3 more celebrities on the very next week's SmackDown. So I don't really know what they're going for, but maybe too much Jelly Roll could also be a problem with this, where the fans are getting invested into Jelly Roll rather than Randy Orton or Cody Rhodes.
Yeah, I've been watching wrestling long enough, and I know that when there's a celebrity that wants to be inside the business, that WWE will allow them to be in the business, and we're going to see them. I have no problem with that. It's just in where we're going to see them at. Jelly Roll has no right to be in this position of being in the middle between this Randy Orton and Cody Rhodes storyline. I get he's not the main character of the story, but it is something that I don't think was needed, and he could have been used somewhere else to progress him as a character, as well as him in the ring and other people around him that you can actually see at WrestleMania. Because I don't think Jelly Roll will be involved in this match at WrestleMania, but it just makes no sense that he has to have multiple segments with these people. He'll go talk to Randy, he'll get beat up, go back to Cody, say, oh my god, he just beat me up, I don't know what to do, Cody. We don't need all that. It could just be as simple as Randy Orton and Cody Rhodes. That's all it needed to be. That's all it ever should have been, but unfortunately, it's not what we're getting.
Yeah, and as I mentioned, he did have a few good segments with Jelly Roll, but I think you could have replaced them in that final moment where Jelly Roll got the RKO and you're trying to break up the fight between them. I think you literally could have put someone like Sami Zayn in there. He had recently, on all the recent SmackDowns, had segments with both Randy Orton and Cody Rhodes. He's a friend of both Randy Orton and Cody Rhodes as well, and there's a little bit of tension between the 3 of them as well. So that could have been something that you did just to kind of put Sami Zayn out there and give him a big moment on a big storyline to kind of elevate him. But obviously he did win the U.S. title that night, all that sort of stuff. As I mentioned, we seen Jelly Roll get involved, and he kind of had a whole lot of segments on that SmackDown. It became one of the worst rated SmackDowns, and now today they just had another SmackDown where we also seen Lil Yachty come out and do some stuff with Trick Williams. We also seen Sexy Red in the crowd do a few things there. And then we also seen the big reveal of who was the mystery person on the phone with Randy Orton, and who was it but Pat McAfee. So 3 celebrities were involved in the very next show of your worst rated SmackDown, and the reasoning being was the celebrity. So I guess we'll see what happens. It seems like Raw is doing the celebrity thing a lot more better with IShowSpeed. They give him quick segments and he's out of the building and it's done. But yeah, I don't really know what SmackDown is going for. I don't know if maybe we need to hire a Road Dogg back on the team or not.
Yeah, introducing Pat McAfee is a route that I don't get why we're doing this. He is somebody that has stepped away, obviously going over to do some more sports things when the end of seasons come around, so he can do coverage for playoffs and stuff like that. And now that he's back, I don't mind him being on the TV. But in this position makes no sense. He cut this promo saying that, oh, we need to see this old school wrestling again and stuff like that. But you can previously hear him say that he loves this new style of wrestling where it's guys that are not obviously as big as the Andre the Giants of the world or the Mark Henrys and the Yokozunas, but it's guys that are way more athletic, can put on way better in-ring matches, and that's just how that's how just wrestling has evolved over the past few years. And now he's saying that he doesn't want that to be, it doesn't want to be it this way anymore. He wants guys like Randy Orton to be back at the top, which again, he was always at the top. That has not changed, as obviously he hasn't won the world champion in quite a few years, but he has still been in that world title picture pretty much every time.
Yeah, Pat McAfee was definitely probably the furthest thing in my mind from who would be on the phone after the Stephanie McMahon segment on Raw. I kind of had a feeling that maybe it would be her, but it was kind of like a far feeling. I didn't really think it would be her. It was kind of like, something that came to me after that promo had happened and she slapped Cody and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, it wasn't her. It ends up being Pat McAfee, and this is the one scenario where I could probably say I would rather it be Stephanie McMahon in this case, which is a crazy thing to say in 2026, but that is the route that they led us to go on with this Randy Orton and Cody feud, when it could have just been as simple as a blood feud between two old friends who are now rivals. It was so simple, but they made it so complicated in such a short period of time. So I guess WWE's objective with this Pat McAfee kind of adding him with Randy Orton, I believe it is to kind of get Randy Orton booed, because it wasn't really working. No one wants to boo Randy Orton. They were in St. Louis when they revealed this, so it's supposed to be like, oh, these are his biggest fans, and we're going to crush their hearts by revealing Pat McAfee doing this. So I kind of get the point, but it could have been done in so many different ways. This is Randy Orton. He could have just done some kind of devious thing where he just kind of does the punt to Cody Rhodes that he's been teasing for months, and I think that could have kind of elevated the story to another level, because he teased the punt for pretty much a full year, because I believe it was at King and Queen of the Ring last year when they had their match with each other, and he teased the punt. He couldn't get himself to do it to one of his friends, so I feel like maybe they're saving that for WrestleMania, obviously, but I think if they did it on the build to WrestleMania, that would make it interesting. And then you leave Cody Rhodes off TV for 1 or 2 weeks to kind of sell the punt, and then he comes back leading into WrestleMania, and I think that would be a huge moment and something to kind of build the hate for Randy Orton, rather than having to do all these kind of crazy things. You just do the move that he was meant to do in the first place.
Obviously, we're getting closer and closer to WrestleMania, so we don't have that many weeks to actually kind of work with, but I think if you just have Cody Rhodes kind of equal out the playing field, I think at this point Randy Orton will not get fully booed. I don't think you can just inevitably turn everybody against Randy Orton, so I think that's a problem that you kind of have to just let happen and going into that WrestleMania match. But I think hopefully Cody Rhodes is able to equal the odds against Jelly Roll, or not against Jelly Roll, but against Pat McAfee, and kind of make sure that we have a one-on-one match where no one's going to get involved between Cody and Randy. Because I do still think that match will be a banger. It's just this build hasn't been great. So I think the way you go down is just making Cody get a little bit more vicious. Maybe he attacks Randy. Maybe he even tries to hit a punt on Randy, because it's how devastating that move can be to people. And I think you really build up this moment where, man, Cody's really getting frustrated now to the point where he might even turn heel on another heel.
Yeah, we had some rumors about WrestleMania having a Hell in a Cell involved, so maybe you could throw them two in a Hell in a Cell, make it some big crazy match similar to what the Punk and Drew McIntyre match was. Just make it a blood match. Just make it a bloody match where they're both just beating the hell out of each other in it, and make it mean something, kind of like how Drew and Punk did once again. But yeah, there's a couple different directions they could go, but I think the best way to do is just make it more of a blood feud. We don't need to involve more people. We don't need any celebrities. We don't need any other wrestlers involved. We just need these two people in the ring giving us the best version of themselves, and that is plenty enough to give the fans what they want.
I think the biggest problem of this feud as well, now that it has been booked a little bit worse than it kind of should have been, is that now it's kind of lost all chances of being in that WrestleMania main event night 2 spot. I think there was a real argument, especially when this feud first started, that this would potentially rival that Punk and Roman Reigns storyline, and that hasn't been as great as well, but that has still had a few better moments than what we've seen from this Randy and Cody storyline. I think that is a real disappointment, because Cody obviously has been on a streak of main eventing WrestleManias. It sucks that it's now going to not end, because he still will probably main event night 1, but that night 2 main event, I still think will go to Randy and Roman, which I do think this push of Randy and Cody was supposed to be a real argument for that night 2 main event.
And I'll say it one more time to close the video. They made a story that was really easy to complicated. And that is the theme of this entire story between these two, and that is how we're going to close this video out. Let us know how you think this could get better. If you think that maybe it doesn't need to get better, maybe you like it exactly how it is, but let us know in the comments how you feel about it. Leave a like and subscribe, and we'll catch you guys in the next one.